Imagine this: a man who has everything, money, power, and influence, is suddenly forced to give it all up unless he marries someone living on the streets. Sounds like something out of a movie, right? But that's exactly what happens to Logan. Bennett, a self-made billionaire who built his empire from the ground up. His life was perfect, or so it seemed, until an old family clause turned his world upside down. And then there's Harper Reed, a woman whose strength is her only wealth, scraping by day after day just to survive. When their paths cross, neither of them could have guessed how much their lives would change. What starts as a marriage of convenience becomes something far deeper, more complicated, and undeniably unexpected. Logan Bennett wasn't used to being told what to do. He had spent years clawing his way to the top, transforming Bennett Industries into a global powerhouse. To him, success wasn't just about money. It was about control. So when his lawyer dropped the bombshell about his grandfather's will, Logan felt like the floor had been ripped out from under him. The stipulation was clear. To inherit full control of the company, he had to marry someone facing significant hardship. It sounded absurd, almost laughable. Yet here he was, standing on a cracked sidewalk in his polished shoes, staring at a young woman wrapped in a threadbare coat. She looked defiant despite her circumstances, and something about her caught his attention. Little did Logan know, this moment would set off a chain reaction neither of them could have anticipated. Harper Reed didn't trust easy. Life had taught her that kindness often came with strings attached, and she wasn't interested in owing anyone, anything. So when Logan approached her with his bizarre proposal, her first instinct was to dismiss him outright. "You're kidding," she said, her voice sharp with disbelief. But Logan wasn't joking. As much as he hated the idea, he knew he couldn't let Lila Gray, the conniving board member next in line for the company, take over. Desperation made strange bedfellows, and Harper reluctantly agreed to the arrangement, though not without reservations. For her, it wasn't about the money or the lifestyle. It was about saving her friend Sarah, who desperately needed medical care. Still, agreeing to such a deal left a bitter taste in her mouth. Something about Logan's cold demeanor unsettled her, even if his offer promised temporary relief. Their initial interactions were awkward at best. Harper felt completely out of place in Logan's luxurious penthouse, surrounded by sleek furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Every glance, every whispered comment at social events reminded her that she didn't belong in his world. Meanwhile, Logan struggled to reconcile his growing respect for Harper with his own rigid expectations. He had always prided himself on staying detached, but Harper's quiet resilience began chipping away at his defenses. There were moments when their conversations hinted at something deeper, a shared understanding of loss, perhaps, or the weight of carrying burdens no one else could see. But these glimpses of connection were fleeting, overshadowed by the tension between them. As weeks turned into months, cracks began to form in the facade they'd built around their relationship. Harper discovered fragments of her past tied directly to Bennett Industries, unraveling secrets that shook her to the core. Her father, David Reed, had worked for one of the company's subsidiaries before dying in a tragic factory fire, a fire caused by cost-cutting measures, orchestrated by none other than Lila Gray. The revelation hit Harper like a punch to the gut, leaving her reeling with questions about fate and justice. For Logan, the truth was equally devastating. Not only had his family's business played a role in Harper's suffering, but Lila's corruption ran deeper than he ever imagined. Together, they realized they had a chance to expose the truth, but doing so would mean risking everything. The Stakes grew higher with each passing day. Lila wasn't about to go down without a fight, and she launched a smear campaign against Harper, painting her as a manipulative gold digger, out to trap Logan. The media frenzy that followed was relentless, dragging Harper's name through the mud while testing Logan's loyalty to its limits. Yet amidst the chaos, something remarkable happened. Logan stood by Harper, defending her honor in front of reporters and board members alike. It was a side of him Harper hadn't seen before, one that hinted at the man beneath the billionaire persona. Their bond deepened, forged in the fire of adversity, but unresolved tensions lingered. Could they truly overcome the obstacles stacked against them? Or would the weight of their pasts tear them apart? What started as a reluctant partnership evolved into something neither Logan nor Harper expected. They weren't just allies anymore. They were becoming something more. But just as hope began to take root, new challenges emerged. The evidence they gathered against Lila pointed to a conspiracy far larger than either of them anticipated, implicating powerful figures within Bennett Industries. With the boardroom showdown looming and their personal feelings intensifying, Logan and Harper faced a choice: retreat to the safety of their separate worlds, or fight together for a future neither of them dared to dream of. As the sun set over the city skyline, casting long shadows across the streets where Harper once wandered alone, the question remained unanswered. Would love conquer all? Or would the scars of their past prove too deep to heal? And that's where we leave things for now. Stay tuned to find out how Logan and Harper navigate the storm ahead. Because trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The days following their agreement were a blur of adjustments for both Harper and Logan. Harper found herself navigating a world that felt as foreign as it was luxurious. Every corner of Logan's penthouse screamed wealth. Marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, and furniture so pristine it seemed untouched by human hands. But beneath the surface, there was an emptiness in the space that mirrored something she sensed in Logan himself. He moved through his days with precision, always in control, yet Harper couldn't shake the feeling that he carried burdens heavier than he let on. Meanwhile, Logan struggled to reconcile his growing admiration for Harper with his own rigid expectations. She wasn't what he had expected, not some damsel waiting to be saved, but a woman whose resilience and quiet strength challenged everything he thought he knew about hardship. Their first public outing together was a charity gala, hosted by one of Bennett Industries' partners. Harper felt out of place in the designer gown Logan had arranged for her. Every eye in the room dissecting her presence. Whispers swirled around them. "She's not his type," someone muttered. "Clearly here for the money," another added. Harper clenched her fists, forcing herself to smile through gritted teeth. Later, as she lingered near the edge of the ballroom, she overheard Logan speaking to a colleague. "It's just a means to an end," he said, his tone indifferent. The words stung more than she cared to admit, cutting through the polished veneer of the evening. For all his talk of professionalism, Logan's comment made her question whether she was truly anything more than a pawn in his game. But amidst the tension, moments of connection began to surface. During a quiet moment on the balcony after the gala, Harper confessed how suffocating the night had been. To her surprise, Logan listened without judgment, his usual guarded expression softening. "You're tougher than you think, Harper," he said, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. "But you don't have to handle everything alone." It was a small gesture, but it shifted something between them. For the first time, Harper allowed herself to consider that maybe Logan wasn't entirely the cold billionaire she'd assumed him to be. As weeks passed, cracks began to form in the carefully constructed facade of their arrangement. Harper stumbled upon an old family trinket in Logan's library. Its intricate design stirring a strange sense of familiarity. When she asked him about it, Logan explained it was the Bennett family crest, a symbol his grandfather had insisted on branding across the company. Something about the crest tugged at Harper's memory, though she couldn't quite place why. Meanwhile, Logan found himself drawn to Harper in ways he hadn't anticipated. Her honesty, even when it was brutal, forced him to confront parts of himself he'd long ignored. Their nightly conversations became a ritual, each word chipping away at the walls they'd built around themselves. The turning point came when Harper discovered fragments of her past tied directly to Bennett Industries. While volunteering at the shelter, she sorted through a box of donated items and found a newspaper clipping detailing her father's role as a whistleblower in a safety investigation targeting one of the company's subsidiaries. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. Her father hadn't just been a victim of the factory fire. He had been fighting to prevent it, and now, knowing Logan's connection to the company, Harper couldn't help but feel the bitter irony of their arrangement. She confronted Logan that night, her voice trembling with anger and betrayal. "Your family destroyed mine," she said, tears streaming down her face. Logan froze, guilt washing over him as he realized the depth of Harper's pain and his own complicity in perpetuating the system that caused it. Determined to make things right, Logan dug deeper into the company's records, uncovering evidence of Lila Gray's corruption. What started as a personal mission quickly became a shared crusade as Harper joined him, piecing together her father's notes and documents salvaged from the wreckage of their old home. Together, they unraveled a web of embezzlement, falsified reports, and threats used to silence whistleblowers. Each discovery brought them closer to exposing Lila, but it also deepened the bond between them. Harper saw Logan's vulnerability for the first time, his determination to seek justice, mirroring her own, and Logan, in turn, admired Harper's courage, realizing she had become the moral compass guiding him through the chaos. But as they prepared to confront Lila, the stakes grew higher. A smear campaign orchestrated by Lila painted Harper as a manipulative gold digger, dragging both their names through the mud. The media frenzy was relentless, testing Logan's loyalty and Harper's resolve. Yet amidst the storm, Logan stood by Harper, defending her honor in front of reporters and board members alike. His unwavering support surprised even himself, revealing emotions he hadn't dared to acknowledge. For Harper, it was a glimmer of hope, a sign that maybe, just maybe, their relationship could transcend the circumstances that brought them together. With the evidence in hand, they called an emergency board meeting. As Harper stepped forward to speak, her heart pounded in her chest. This was her chance to honor her father's legacy, to ensure his fight hadn't been in vain. "Years ago, my father worked for a Bennett subsidiary," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "He discovered safety violations and financial discrepancies, evidence of embezzlement that endangered lives. When he tried to report it, his findings were buried. Shortly after, a fire destroyed the factory where he worked, taking his life along with others." The room fell silent as Harper laid out the damning evidence tying Lila to the crimes. For the first time, the truth was undeniable. Lila's composure shattered as the board turned against her, their expressions reflecting the disgust and betrayal rippling through the room. As officers escorted her out in handcuffs, Harper felt a mix of relief and sorrow. Justice had been served, but at what cost? The scars of the past still lingered, reminders of the lives lost and the trust broken. Yet standing beside Logan, Harper realized they had forged something stronger in the aftermath. a partnership built on trust, love, and the unwavering belief that together they could face anything. As the dust settled, Logan made a bold decision. He would step down temporarily as CEO to oversee a thorough restructuring of the company. "This isn't just about changing a company," he told the press. "It's about making amends to the people we've wronged. That starts today, and it starts with me." Harper, meanwhile, threw herself into community work, using her experiences to inspire change and give a voice to those who had none. Together, they were rebuilding, not just Bennett Industries, but their lives and the lives of those around them. Yet even as they celebrated their victories, questions remained. Could Harper truly forgive Logan for the sins of his family? Could Logan ever fully escape the shadow of his grandfather's legacy? And most importantly, could their love withstand the trials that lay ahead? As they stood together under the city lights, the answers still uncertain, one thing was clear: their journey was far from over. The aftermath of Lila's arrest sent shockwaves through Bennett Industries, but it also opened the door for real change. Logan threw himself into restructuring the company, determined to honor not only his grandfather's legacy, but also the lives lost due to greed and corruption. He implemented new safety protocols, ensured transparency in financial dealings, and created programs to support employees facing hardship. For Harper, this marked a turning point as well. She no longer felt like an outsider looking in. Instead, she became a vital part of shaping the future of the company her father had once fought so hard to protect. Harper found purpose beyond the penthouse walls. With Logan's backing, she launched a foundation dedicated to helping those who had fallen through society's cracks. People like herself, who needed a second chance. The shelter where she'd spent countless nights became one of the first projects under the foundation's umbrella. Together with Clara, they transformed it into a thriving community center, offering job training, counseling, and housing assistance. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about rebuilding lives. Every ribbon-cutting ceremony, every success story shared by someone whose life had been touched, reminded Harper why she'd agreed to that strange proposal all those months ago. But even as their professional lives flourished, the personal connection between Harper and Logan deepened. They weren't perfect. They argued over decisions, struggled with moments of doubt, and occasionally let old insecurities creep in. But they faced it all together. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, Logan surprised Harper with dinner on the balcony. The city lights twinkled below, a stark contrast to the quiet intimacy between them. "Do you remember the first time we stood here?" Logan asked, his voice soft. Harper smiled faintly. "How could I forget? You were trying to convince me your plan wasn't completely insane." Logan chuckled, then grew serious. "And now, look at us. I never imagined I'd find someone like you." It was in that moment that Logan realized he couldn't wait any longer. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a small velvet box and held it out to her. Harper froze, her breath catching, as she stared at him. "When I first asked you to marry me," Logan began, his voice steady despite the emotion swirling in his eyes. "It was out of necessity, a deal, but now." He opened the box to reveal a simple yet elegant diamond ring. "Now I'm asking, because I love you, because you've made me a better man, Harper. Will you marry me again?" Tears welled in Harper's eyes as she nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, of course, yes." Their wedding was intimate, held in the park near the shelter where their journey had begun. Friends, family, and volunteers gathered under strings of fairy lights, laughter, and music, filling the air. As Logan slipped the ring onto Harper's finger, he whispered, "This is just the beginning. and Harper believed him. Together, they had turned pain into purpose, tragedy into triumph. They weren't just rebuilding a company or revitalizing a community. They were building a life rooted in trust, love, and resilience. In the months that followed, Harper and Logan continued to push boundaries, both personally and professionally. Logan stepped down temporarily as CEO to oversee the restructuring efforts, ensuring the changes stuck. Meanwhile, Harper poured her energy into expanding the foundation, advocating for systemic reforms that would prevent tragedies like her father's from happening again. Their partnership wasn't without challenges, but it was stronger because of them. They learned to lean on each other, to celebrate victories big and small, and to face setbacks with unwavering determination. As they stood together one evening, watching the city skyline shimmer in the distance, Harper rested her head on Logan's shoulder. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" she asked softly. Logan kissed the top of her head. "Every day. And I still can't believe you said yes to me. Not once, but twice." Harper laughed, the sound warm and full of hope. "Well, maybe I saw something in you that others didn't. Or maybe I just knew you were worth fighting for." Logan tightened his arm around her, pulling her closer. "Either way, I'm glad you did." Their story wasn't just about two people overcoming impossible odds. It was about redemption, forgiveness, and the transformative power of love. Harper and Logan proved that even in a world driven by wealth and status, humanity could shine, brightest when given the chance. As they walked hand in hand toward whatever lay ahead, they carried with them the lessons of their past and the promise of a brighter future. Together, they had shown that sometimes the most unexpected paths lead to the greatest rewards.